Hi, welcome to a book review of Atlas Comic Library number 6. This is Shiver As You Read, a perfect book for Halloween time. A new volume of Atlas Comic Library. This is volume 6 and it's great. Shiver As You Read. I just love the title. Great cover as well. Of course, brilliant bit of artwork. And onto the book itself. They always come with a standard style, which is very nice. Atlas. And you've of course got here, what's it got? Comprising of detective cases 11 to 14, as well as men's adventures 21 to 26. Now, after that, there was, of course, the superhero stories that came in, Human Torch, etc. They were classics. They're not included. Obviously, they're mentioned, but they're not included in this book. As always, you've got these lovely contents. I really think that it's one of the great things about this book. Just a great content section. I mean, just got lovely, only probably slight criticism. Be nice if they were in colour, but I guess they've obviously made a decision on that. Still gives you the artist, the writer, etc., if available. And then you've got this, which I always enjoy. Michael J. Vassallo, Dr. Michael J. Vassallo, who does a great introduction. Just really good essays. And I just love the pictures as well. He uses all these ones, Amazing Detective, all the various, obviously, pulp magazines they brought out. Amazing Detective, you've got the covers here of some of the earlier ones. And then you've got some more of these. So you've got a lot of covers, lots of background information as well, which is always welcome. Now, I really love these. These are just great. I love these, obviously an inked page as well, but you get these ones. I would love to see a book full of this sort of stuff. I mean, I think there are a few sort of ones that are like that, but you could have this size book with a lot of these things, some brilliant artwork included. Also, you get some scripts, which I think is just great. Again, men's ventures. And then you got this, Human Torch, which obviously not the Human Torch, as we know, but also got Muted Murder and so on. So you've got lots of those. But let's get into the actual comics. So we've got here Amazing Detective. I always enjoyed this approach, this little banner down the side, which I think just tells you obviously the stories that are upcoming. And you've got the Black Shadow. Now, are all the stories great in this? Well, no. Some are better than others. I think there's some really good ones that I thoroughly enjoyed reading. And there's some that you can sort of pass over and think, well, yeah, fine. But the artwork's great. Stories generally are okay. But also you get these sort of ones here, Spot Reducer, take off excessive weight and all that sort of thing. Or excess weight, it says. You can see the artwork here. It's as good, I think, as you're ever going to get. Obviously, they could do a massive restoration on this and clean it up. But I think they've just done that nice in-between bit. They've cleaned it up, they've enhanced it, but they haven't really taken away from the original comic. Now, you can't smell this comic in the way that, obviously, the originals, but still, you've still got a general look of a really high quality. Also, obviously, slightly bigger scale as well. A voice from the grave. And, of course, you can see from this, they're all mainly horror stories, but horror / thriller / those sort of things. And, of course, the usual sort of things. Vampires turn up, various odd creatures and things. But you've got a mix of, and sometimes artists that I must admit I don't know anything particularly about. But Amazing Detective, you've got another, obviously, that sidebar. You've got the ghosts and things. You can see the general sort of thing. Harrigan's Wake. Now, you always get this. I always love these pages. And actually, they're often quite good little stories. Not always, but I do generally try and read them because I think, you know what, why not? 2 pages, you can read them fairly quickly. And you've got there at the end, and I think it's got a code there, 9763. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's some job code reference. But you've got, see, again, this story. They always have these sort of very quick endings where you get, obviously, transformations. He turns, obviously, there. And you can guess. When the person turns into a rat, there's going to be a cat that jumps out. I think I've seen that sort of storyline many a time. Again, ghost stories, but you've got other stories as well. I think it's not just purely ghost stories, but you can see the ghost story always generally drawn in this ghostly look, and people obviously anguish look there, you can see there. And you've got their Clinging Vine. And again, some really quite nice little bit of artwork, I think, in these stories. And lots of rain. Rain's always a popular one. You can't bit of rain in the story. I think it's just always great. And, of course, you've got various people who go obviously signing a cheque there. which is which, and of course there's always the twists with witch stories, and this probably turns out a warlock or something. That's the usual twist in the end of those. The Mousetrap. Interesting one. But there are some really, like I said, an alien, and that's a good story. I really like that story, even though, again, it's a pretty obvious one. So let's just go to that story here. And it's very short. That's the thing about lots of these. They were 2 or 3, 4 pages at most sometimes. This one's 3 pages, but good. And they always have this, one of the weirdest of all men's adventures. In the UK, we of course have the black and white Alan Class, those sort of ones, and quite often the reprints, and you would actually see these sort of things, men's adventures, and you'd think, oh, back at the time I wouldn't have known at all, back in the 70s. But you often see these sort of things, it's appearing unknown or something. So you think, oh, well, that's weird. Why do they always use that? Of course, now, with all these reprinting of these Atlas ones, these Atlas comics, of course, the 1950s, 1940s, that sort of period, 48. I hope they do some more like 1948, 47, that sort of period. There's a lot of really great and unusual artwork they produced in that period as well. And it's, I think this series has been so far absolutely brilliant. I mean, I would love to see them coming out more often, but obviously there's limits. Obviously, there's only a small group of people doing it. It's not a massive organisation churning these out. So we're getting them when we get them. And of course, as soon as I saw this in the shop, and actually I was really surprised to see it in the shop, because for quite a while, I've been having to order them from the States. Obviously, after a while, they do seem to creep onto various websites in the UK. But for quite a while, when you initially get them, you have to order them from the States. Well, I have anyway. But now, saw them in, obviously, comic shop in London, which is just great. I mean, finally. And that's what they should have been doing right from the start, as far as I'm concerned. So you've got Men's Adventures again, another one. Again, you've got obviously the skeleton eye, Mark of the Witch, and you can guess that looks like Bill Everett's work. A weird Men's Adventures. And I just love his work. And I love that transforms into the witch. Again, of course, there's going to be a twist in the story. But Bill Everett work, I always love. I'm looking forward. Of course, there's a Bill Everett book coming out fairly soon. So that will be just absolutely amazing. So you got here Men's Adventures, again more. Now do you get, and of course, I love that gruesome sort of wonderful sketch. That's really quite dramatic, and setting the colour sort of just one solid colour there. And again, they use this quite a lot. This obviously the shining, the light, obviously in the darkness, and you got their Men's Adventures and so on. So you can see there's just so many interesting and, like I say, not so great stories. And one, I think there's one here. You've obviously got there's a gorilla one, of course. I think is that. Oh, they've got a shrunken head story in this one. And, of course, got a lovely undersea one. I always love that. Good old undersea, a shark. I mean, that's just great. And you can see that. Joe Sinnott, good old Joe Sinnott. Of course, more sort of the ink work for the Fantastic Four, etc. But I just think absolutely, again, Bill Everett there. It looks like Bill Everett as soon as you see it. Quite often, let's just go back. Sometimes you can't always find the signature, though. So probably in there somewhere. But it's always hard to read anyway, I always think. Walked on the Moon, again, it's obviously a slightly science fiction-ish sort of story where it's a twist at the end, of course. And, oh, here it is, Gorilla Man. I knew it was somewhere. But this is obviously a story later on, the Gorilla Man story there, which is Atlas later, Agents of Atlas. And, of course, you got this. I love this. Given, Cash, Premium, etc. And then at the back, the creators, which I think is just something that Marvel should do in their books. I mean, they do have a very little section on this, but I think a really nice sort of 2 or 3 pages. Obviously, in some cases, it would be lovely if there was a picture of them. Maybe another couple of pages, just put a little picture with some, maybe, of course, pictures don't exist, and then obviously it's not going to be possible. But I just think it's still just absolutely great. They put the dates, obviously, of most, it's rather depressing, actually. Obviously, some, obviously, they're question mark, they don't know. But of course, I assume most of these people have died because these were done in the 50s. So, and these people probably were in their 30s or 40s. But that's it. Going through his book, you can see there, obviously the price I paid, was it £39.99, not $39.99. That was $44.99. But I just think an absolutely just great book. Lots and lots of really great artists. You can see the list there, of course, with all the various Reed Crandall, etc., Russ Heath, just people who appeared in EC Comics as well. I loved all those EC Comics ones. These, perhaps, people will say they're not as good, but I still think they're pretty decent in most cases. I've been thoroughly enjoying this series of Atlas Comic Library. There's quite a few also announced. There's a Snafu one coming fairly soon. This one, Police Action, came out a couple of months ago, really worth checking out. And also this one was a bit earlier, science fiction one, In the Days of the Rockets. Now there's so many Atlas comic books, I suspect there's no way they could bring out every single story, but they're certainly going through a fair amount of these books. And one great thing, actually just noticed on the back here, lovely little dent there on the back, great thing about picking them up in, of course, a local comic shop such as Gosh in London, which is where I bought this one for, as I said, £39.99. It's really great condition. It's always really nice. Well, this one I thoroughly enjoyed. I think Shiver As You Read, great stories. And, well, are you going to pick this one up? Have you got this in mind? Have you already got it? I mean, it's probably been out for a few weeks now, so perhaps you've already got that. Is it good? Do you like it? If you have got it, obviously. And any thoughts about other ones you'd love to see coming in the Atlas series? I mean, obviously for me, I think it'd be just great if they cover lots of things like the crime ones, which I thoroughly enjoy. Don't always enjoy just the horror books, but crime, the teen books, Marvel, and I mean Atlas, I should say, brought out thousands of those. So it's going to be virtually impossible for every single possible story to be included. And I don't think, actually, to be honest, they probably never need that. I mean, there's quite a few Millie ones. There's Patsy Walker, all those sort of ones. It would be very hard. But I guess there's loads of other ones they could bring out as well. There's still zillions of war ones. Also, of course, like I say, horror ones as well, and thriller, and much, much more. So, hope you found this of interest. Bye.